I think you build trust because you bring a perspective and a point of view that they don't have. And I think that that's really trust building. If you bring nuggets of things that they had not thought of, because, you're working with really smart people, right? And they're thinking around lots of facets of a problem, but there's 35 facets and maybe they've got half of them and they've thought through those. But like you have a unique perspective that you can bring to the table. And I think that always builds trust. And if you can bring that, people want you in the room.
Welcome to Built by People Leaders podcast. I'm your host, Daria Rudnik, and this show is for HR and L&D leaders, those building real impact from within and shaping AI-ready organizations. Each episode, I sit down with people leaders to talk about how they build strong cultures and shape organizations around them. It's about HR being seen as a true business partner by leaders and by HR themselves. And today I have a very special guest. I'm very excited about this conversation today. Rachel Sutherland is a people and operations leader who builds the HR function from the ground up at high-growth SaaS startups. She works at the intersection of people strategy and business execution, partnering directly with founders and boards on everything from org design and compensation to decisions that shape a company's next stage. Senior VP of People and Operations at Respondology, she specializes in unglamorous, high-stakes work that keeps a scaling company from outgrowing itself. That is so interesting. I'm so excited to have this conversation. Welcome, Rachel.
Also, I'm so excited to be here as well, Daria.
Well, let's start with a question that I have for you. You're in the middle of this transition from startup to scale up. What stands out for you?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I think the biggest thing that stands out is that idea that the executives, the founders, the people who kind of were there from the very beginning, right? Who got to be in all the rooms and make all the decisions, now have to kind of push that to a different layer of the company, right? There's not enough time. There's not enough of you to make all of the decisions, to be making all of the choices, to be in all the meetings, so you have to build this layer of people that you really trust underneath you. And you have to kind of, lack of a better word, brain dump a little bit onto them, right? You have to really be aligned with you, have to be really aligned with them, but then you have to trust them to make those decisions and move on ahead of you. You have to set up those right processes, right? So that, there's not something that's very confusing on a different level where you're thinking, well, that isn't anywhere like a decision that I would make. But you also have to be okay with them making maybe decisions that you wouldn't exactly make, but they are in line absolutely with the business objectives. And there's nothing that's wrong with the decision. It's just not exactly how you would have done it. So there's a little bit of angst that goes along with that. There's a little bit of, maybe quite a lot of that, right? And feeling like a loss of control. So especially as the HR leader, my job then is to come alongside other executives and other people who are also going through the same thing. So I'm going through it with my own team, right? Like I'm pushing decisions down to people on my team. And then I have to also come along to do the same. And it's, depending on what it is, it can be really, really hard for each of these people to do that. That is the thing that really stands out right now where we are in the company.
Yeah, well, I can feel it. There's going to be personally challenging transition. Okay, I'm in control. I know I need to delegate. I know I need to do that, but it kind of feels awkward and scary.
Like this funny, what if they're better than me or something, right? There's also a little bit of you're moving outside of your kind of find the new thing that is the most valuable that you bring to the company and that you bring to the team, right? And so you're kind of constantly reinventing yourself or working yourself out of a job, letting someone else do some of those things that maybe you were the expert in for such a long time. And you got a lot of identity out of being the expert and the person that everyone came to for that. And now you're not the person maybe, or not, you don't have to be that person. And so there's a little bit of reinventing of yourself and re-identifying yourself. And it feels like it happens over and over again in a startup, constantly. So if you're not feeling like that kind of weird sense of out of comfort zone, then you're probably, sticking too long in one phase of the company there a little bit. So you gotta keep feeling.
Well, tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you came to that role?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did not have a traditional HR path. I did not go to school for HR or even business administration. I have an English literature degree. which is amazing. I love all liberal arts. I think humanities degrees are fantastic. I love to hire people with humanities degrees. I was in publishing for 10 years, actually, did a lot of writing. And then I took some time off to spend with my children. And then during that phase, I began to open up my own business. So I did myriad of different businesses, like brick and mortar, different kinds of businesses as I was raising my kids. And then got back into the corporate world about 7 years ago, actually, kind of in a startup incubator, and have just moved up on through there and really enjoyed this type of work. I think being an entrepreneur myself and, starting a lot of things myself, like I really understand the business piece of it and understood like what kind of people would do well in those sorts of places. And so the HR area was just very, very easy for me to fit right into. So yeah, that's kind of my journey. And now I really love it. All of the operational pieces and the HR pieces fitting together in a startup, especially, like it's all the inner workings of the business, and it's really, really exciting. So I think it's like the funnest job. I always tell people it's like the funnest job there is. I mean, not every piece of it is fun, of course. Like it's never fun to fire someone, or there's tough things about it, but I just think it's fun. I wake up every day and I think it's just one of the most fun jobs there is.
Good. I love hearing this like stories of how people came to HR, like from sales, from business, entrepreneurship, literature, book publishing. Amazing.
Totally.
So cool.
Yeah.
I'm really curious. Like, what's your favorite part of HR, and what's the one that? Well, I hear the firing thing, but okay, what's the thing that you don't really enjoy doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think like the strategic piece of HR is the most interesting, and really like the organizational design, like understanding like where we are, where we need to be, really digging into like what's missing on the team. Again, especially with this startup to scale up kind of situation, right? So like what's missing? Is that a skill that we can train with the current people we have? Is it a new person that we need to bring in to really up level the team? Like, how does that work, right? And how can we do that in the most sustainable way? Growing the team sustainably, so we're not just burning through money, right? Like we're venture backed. So we have a certain amount of money. I don't want to do layoffs, things like that. So we have to grow sustainably. So I think that's the most exciting thing. It's really, really interesting to see where the business is going, what's going to bring in the revenue, how we support that really, really well, and just grow to the best like overall business. Yeah. So the things that I don't love about it, of course, the tough conversations that you have to have with people, letting people go, of course, those are things that I don't love about it. I'm trying to think what else. It's not that just really obvious. Of course, no one likes that. If you do like that part of your job, you really should get out of HR at this point, right? Like, please don't enjoy firing people. You should always feel bad about that. There's pieces of like extreme detail work that I struggle with. Like, I don't enjoy that. I have a real details really matter. I think the devil is always in the details, but I don't love to be doing constant detail work. If I'm only in spreadsheets or something for multiple days, I'm probably going to be a little grumpy. I do have a lot of people on my team. That's kind of what I hired for immediately, were people who really understood how to be super, super detailed. And then I get to be the one to be like, oh, you know what? That's fine. We can play in the gray a little bit of that situation. But I know for sure that someone has really, really black and whited it out. Whereas sometimes that's not as fun for me.
Yeah, well, I can relate. Like I was always into like people development, culture, strategy, but going into operations, contracts, documents, benefits, spreadsheets. I mean, I was so happy. Like there were people who loved that and they were great at that.
Exactly. So I think that it's so valuable, and like I really want all of that really minutia data and everything that goes along with that. Like I think it's absolutely integral and imperative, and I will absolutely do it if I need to, but it's just not my favorite part. And I'd love to have people on the team that really love that piece, and then we can just complement each other there.
You mentioned you like thinking about how HR can support revenue. Can you give us an example? What it's like? Like HR spends money, salaries, benefits, training, lots of things. How do we generate revenue?
Well, generate revenue might be slightly excessive on that, but yes. But I think, I think how you support revenue growth is like understanding compensation really well, right? Incentives really, really well. So like understanding how to motivate people, how to incentivize people to really hit their targets is going to get the company to the place that they need to be, right? So incentives, motivation, and also just really setting up those exact, I really think it does have to do with hiring too, right? Like what specific level of person, what are we exactly looking for that's really going to be able to hit their numbers in this system that we have put together, right? And if we're struggling with that, then maybe we need to adjust the system too. What system can we work in that makes that the best? And I also just think really understanding, again, org design, right? Like so that you're not getting like inflated teams, things that are people really working on the most important things. That's a piece of our culture too, right? Like you got to be working on impactful things. There's lots of busy work you can do all the time. Are you doing impactful things? You know what I mean? Right? Like everyone on every piece of the business. So if we're over hiring for a team, if we don't take the time to understand where's really the pain here that you need to bring on an additional person to do this extra work, then we can definitely not support the business, right? So like having that understanding and that business understanding, I think keeps the team lean. And that is where we support in the revenue piece, right? Like we can support on the OpEx side so that we don't need as much revenue maybe, or that our revenue can actually go to growing the business.
I love the kind of the system vision. Like you see the whole picture, you see the organization. It's not just you hiring this person for this role, maybe for this manager, but how this person will impact like a bigger picture. We're not just doing the training program because everyone does training programs, everyone develops leaders. But why? What exactly do we need to get from it? Is it engagement, again, retention? What is it we're trying to achieve?
Yeah, exactly.
Rachel, what I'm curious about, like you mentioned your education, you like people in humanities, but you're working with the tech environment
For sure.
and lots of tech people out there. How do you find the common language?
Yeah, that's a good question. I certainly am not an excessively technical person on the engineering side. But I think that there's that curiosity and that learning. And I think that's part of what I mean about humanities majors is like people have critical thinking skills, right? Like, how do I learn enough about someone's job or enough about what they're doing that I at least understand, right? I'm never going to understand all the frameworks you can talk on all these. I'm not going to understand every single technology that you might use, but I think I can understand the basis of your job, what matters to you, what makes you tick in that technical role, enough to, number one, build a relationship with you. And then number two, understand the team dynamics and what might be, if there's something that we need to step in and fix, or how to make you do the best job that you can, not make you, but provide the environment for you to do the best work that you can do.
I love this curiosity part. And I hear it a lot, like through some of the episodes. Be curious about people you're working with. Same thing, be curious about the business. How the company generates revenue? What are the products? What is it they needed? If you don't really understand that, well, go and ask questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I just think I've said this a lot to like entry level people coming into our company too. Like, go and ask every single person what they do for 15 minutes and like talk, like, because they're excited to tell you about it. Like, they should love their job. Like, hopefully, they all love their job and they're really excited to tell you like the ins and outs of technical onboarding a client or something like that. Right. And so you just get a little bit of a taste of what everyone is doing and how it works together. I just think that's paramount for a people leader, again, because you can see the gaps and you can also see some overlaps, or you can see like, you know what, this person would be great melding into this position that we might have coming up, or being able to assist in this area because I know them well enough. And it is nice because we only have 50 people right now. So I can sort of tell, or I can like work with a leader who knows those pieces of it. I think it's a little harder when there's more people, of course.
But still, you kind of get this feeling
Yes.
of what happens. And if you have this relationship with the manager, they will tell you
Exactly.
what they think and what they feel.
Yeah.
You train entry level people, professionals to go and ask questions. But I also want to say that, and I'm sure you agree, when you change industries, when you change companies, when you do like at the senior level, it's okay to ask questions as well. It's not just for entry level folks. It's for like any time you change an industry, change a company, same thing. Go ask people about what they do and to understand.
Yeah,
that?
I think you're exactly right, right? There's, a lot of great books about kind of your first 90 days or something, especially as an executive or someone coming onto a company. And those are just so spot on. And the understanding, like you can ask a lot of stupid questions or quote unquote, right? Because you're new. And so you have a pass for a long time to be able to ask a lot of questions, to really come at it from a space of not knowing because you're new to the team. So ask a question that maybe no one else thought of because you're seeing it from a different perspective, coming from a different place or a different company. So absolutely. And like soaking that in, and not necessarily, of course, not coming and being like, well, Glad, I think you should do it this way. More like, why did you do it that way? Like, I'm super curious, right? Like I've not seen it done that way before, or I'm wondering what made us go in this direction. And then, the rest of the leaders have to articulate that as well, because maybe they've forgotten it's been 2 years since we zigged instead of zagged, and maybe we should look at the other direction again. So yeah, I totally agree with that. Absolutely.
And apart from curiosity and being curious and really interested in people, like how do you build trust with senior leaders, with the board? How do you make them how do you make them trust you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, of course, the relationship building. So getting to know people as people, I think, and I use a lot of humor. Like I like to enjoy joking around with people, having a good time, right? Like understanding, asking them personal questions. Those are just obvious things, right? But I think also you build trust because you bring a perspective and a point of view that they don't have. And I think that that's really trust building. So like if you bring nuggets of things that they had not thought of, because you're working with really smart people, right? They're thinking around lots of facets of a problem, but there's 35 facets, right? And maybe they've got half of them and they've thought through those, but like you have a unique perspective that you can bring to the table. And I think that always builds trust. And if you can bring that, people want you in the room, right? Like, because they're like, okay, well, Rachel's going to see something, Daria's going to see something that I didn't see. And I really want her to hear all of what's going on so that she can speak into something like that. And so if you can bring that perspective, and it takes some confidence, a little bit of bravery, I guess, sometimes, especially if you're new to a team or, you're moving up or something, right? To actually share your point of view, because not every time is it going to land and everyone's going to be like, wow, what a great idea, right? Like it's not always going to land, but you have to have some of that, and you have to understand the business enough so that you're coming with something that is really salient to a conversation, salient to a strategy that maybe a lot of people didn't think of. And then people trust you.
Yeah. And you said like bravery, it does take some courage to say something. Oh, they're so smart. They're so like smart people, and I don't understand those tech things. I don't understand business that well. And sometimes a question can also be very helpful. It also brings some perspective. So probably if you're shy for the first to say something, ask something instead, and that will help them get this another perspective and maybe come to another point of view as well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Asking a question, even not in a group setting, if you feel like that's maybe your first start or something like that, for sure, right? Each different person in like sort of different level, like you might work with your executive team all the time and hopefully you have a really good relationship there. A board member or board observers, they're an even higher level. They're not in your day to day. You don't know them super well on a personal level. And they can seem a little more difficult to get to know because of that, right? You don't work with them all the time every day. And so it just takes a little bit more time. Just cultivate that a little bit, and a little bit more time listening, a little bit less time maybe bringing your ideas forward until you've gotten to the point where you feel like you can.
And what do you think, what kind of decisions HR need to be involved in? Like, for example, if they're not involved, okay, they should say, okay, I can help you with that. What kind of decisions could that be?
You mean across the entire company or the board?
I mean, with the board, like the board tells, it's not just go hire me some people, but maybe some more strategic questions.
Yeah, no, I think that in our case, especially like in terms of things like equity, in terms of things, the equity option pool or something like that, right? I think they need to be really into that, because that informs the kind of talent that you can bring onto your team. So that is something, and that's something that every board and every executive cares a lot about. What does that look like? So advising on that 100%. And then also like that motivation piece, right? So even in executive motivation. So like the executive compensation, how do we make sure that we're setting KPIs so that everyone is happy with the outcomes, but also the executives are very motivated to hit those things at the end of the year or whatever. So I think those kind of conversations are really imperative. And then just also regular business strategy, because again, you're going to have a different perspective or you're coming from a different place. You also are talking with other people in the industry who might be HR leaders at other high growth companies, and they might have ideas, right? No one else is talking to the other HR leaders at other high growth companies. Probably they might be talking to the other product leader. They might be talking to the other CEO because that's who they are, right? And so again, like we have ideas and places that we're bringing those things in. But I definitely think when it has to do with motivations, understanding about scaling the team, what it looks like for what we need if we are going to raise another series of funding, if we are going to get more equity out of a pool, those kind of things, like absolutely the people leader needs to be involved in.
I remember a story about one HR leader, and every year she was going to the CEO to talk about executive compensation. I mean, they people, they also don't like talking and asking for money. I mean, they feel awkward about that, but they know there is someone there who's fighting for them. And that really builds their trust. So when like she needed to cut costs or like didn't let some people be hired, they knew that she's there for them anyway, because every year she goes to the CEO to talk about their compensation schemes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, and that also goes, yeah, with the board, with the executives, with the CEO, all of those things. It goes back to the building trust too. So, like, there's both things, right? Like, you're going to fight for people, and then you're also going to tell them the truth sometimes, right? Like, well, all the time you should tell them the truth, but like, I mean, more of a hard truth sometimes, right? When they're being a certain way, or when they're maybe getting in their own way, or there's a conflict arising. You should be typically the person that can say those things and should say those things to the team that you're working with 100%, right? That you should be able to say, I don't think you're handling this very well. And people do then trust you for that too, right? Like they know you're not just going to be a yes man. So you got their back, but you also are going to push them a little bit to be like the best leader they can be.
Well, Rachel, you mentioned that, well, while going through this transition, growing the company, you've made some mistakes. Do you want to sharing some of them with us?
I think I've made a lot of mistakes. Absolutely. Right. I got to think through which one I would bring forward first. Right. There's a lot of times where you have an idea of what's worked in the past. And I think you can start there, but you can't repeat that necessarily. Right. Like it doesn't always work exactly like you would repeat it. So I think there's been times like that where I might have gone down a path that I thought this would work this time and it really hasn't worked. And I've had to kind of backtrack on that. I think one of the hardest things to do also is executive hire. And so there's been, we've made mistakes on executive hiring. I think that's not necessarily things that we can completely avoid that, right? I think that's just really hard, right? And so trying to put in enough checks and balances there, right? So that we're bringing in the right people, because especially in a startup, like it really does make a huge difference who the leadership is. And if you make a mistake there, it's really a 6-month mistake or whatever, like it's a long mistake. I think there's been places there that's been tough. Those have been tougher setbacks. But, always have been learning experiences and tried to move forward with, I guess, just more ability to understand like who we should bring on the team. Yeah.
You know what I'm curious about? Like when the company grows, when startup grows, and you have this kind of leadership team, and at some point you do realize, well, some people can be moved up and they can grow further, but some people, they just need to stay on the same level and you need to bring someone else.
Be layered, right? Yeah.
How do you know which is which? And how do you handle it?
Yeah, that's really, really tough. I actually think it's not that hard to know which is which. I think you see it pretty clearly when someone has hit a ceiling that might not be a ceiling that they always will be at, but maybe it's because of their life, their current things, like whatever it is, right? But when they hit a ceiling, you might not want to admit it because you really love them on the team and whatnot, but like they hit a ceiling, right? You typically know. I don't think it's that hard to know that actually. I think what's harder is, yes, layering. So do we need to bring someone in over? Will they be happy kind of moving on, right? Like maybe their stage is from, 0 to 1 and now we're at 1 to 2 and that's not their thing. And maybe I just need to have a conversation. Like maybe you need to go somewhere else and do a 0 to 1 again, right? Like we've had people definitely come to that conclusion themselves. I'm now past the stage that this is fun for me and I want to go do it from start over again with another company. And I think that's a great realization to have. But depending on where you are in your career, you might not know that yet. This might be the first time that you've hit kind of a ceiling. So I think that's when the harder question comes is, do we hire someone over someone? Do we maybe replace, right, with someone who can move it forward? And we've done both of those things. We've made the right choices there. But it's a super hard conversation. It's a super hard thing, especially when someone's been around from the beginning or from a certain section. But I do really firmly believe that there is people come and often they do have, like, it's a very rare person that goes from 0 to 100, right? Like there's a very rare person that can make it all the way through all stages of the company. And so it's really not a knock at all, like that you've taken it from X all the way to Y. We need to get someone from Y to Z. And that's a totally different person. They couldn't have started either. They couldn't have done the beginning part. And so it's a lot of nuanced conversations, I think, and they're tough, but I actually think it is pretty obvious to see when people hit that spot. Yeah.
It is hard, but I like to think about it that we're actually helping people by helping them understand like their current limitations. Like I said, it might change, and to help them find place where they will thrive and they'll be happy and perform and everyone will be happy, like a win-win. But yeah, this first conversation might be uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's a change. I think that's the hardest part, right? Yeah, making the change is the harder part, right? Trying to kind of bring someone up through it. You always try that for sure. I just think also at the speed that a startup is at. So maybe at a larger company where there's just more time to kind of grow with a role, that would happen less. But at a startup, a year later, your job is so different than it was a year before. It just happens more frequently, I think.
Well, Rachel, that was an amazing conversation. I have one final question for you. If you had a magic wand and could solve one professional challenge that HR and people leaders have, what would that be?
That's a really good question. It's funny, it's not the problem that I typically have, but I would make it, I think HR being seen as more of a business partner, like just across the board, would be the thing that I would really change. I think that in progressive companies and, forward-thinking companies, that's how it is. And when I talk to other colleagues and it's not that way, I just think the entire business is suffering for that. And so that would be the kind of magic wand that I would use. I think it's getting so much better, especially in tech, depending on where you're at, right? But I would love to change that perception and even just like the side jokes or whatever, right? Like people, I love to take, jokes are fine. I'll take them all day long. But it's not the same as kind of, I don't know, HR from The Office or whatever the show, right? It's not like that. And so to change that perception would be really helpful.
Yeah, thanks. I agree. And hopefully this conversation will help people understand the value HR can bring and can really ask for the meaningful strategic support, not just hiring or firing someone.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for watching the episode. Thanks for being with us till the end. Before you go, if you are an HR people leader watching turnover climb and engagement and alignment sleep, and you know that team issues are there, the hard part is raising it with your leaders without sounding like you're not doing a good job. So I work with HR and people leaders in scale-ups and fast-growing companies on exactly this. If that sounds familiar, reach out on daryaRudnik.com and let's figure it out how to start. And if you like this episode, give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and stay tuned for the next episode. Bye.